So here's a surprise! Out of nowhere, 2 new Asuka 120% games were announced. Asuka 120% Reborn for the SEGA Genesis, based on the original Sharp X68000 version, with an enhanced Switch port coming later, and Asuka 120% O-Nyu, which will be all new and feature 3D models, for better or for worse. Why haven't you heard about this? Because it was announced on a live stream for a Japanese indie detective game, I think, called Wrathgrave, because Kate from Wrathgrave is going to be a guest character in the new Asuka 120%. This info has since been disseminated to the English-speaking community by Sailor Vic, who runs the English Asuka 120% Discord. But what is Asuka 120%? You may have heard the name before as one of those import fighting gems of the PS1 Saturn era, and one of the classic all-girl fighters. The game features a cast made entirely of schoolgirls representing different clubs in the school's yearly Mega Fight tournament that they hold during the school festival, hence the full name, Asuka 120% Burning Fest. What you might not know is that the games may have birthed the anime fighter genre, with the original game coming out in early 1994 and serving as direct inspiration for Melty Blood, Under Night In-Birth, and even Guilty Gear. They were pioneers in the fast-paced, combo-heavy, air-centric style of fighter. What's interesting is that they're still quite unique today. See, these were pretty much indie games, mostly programmed by one guy, Masatoshi Imaizumi, possibly two, to know how directly involved Masaki Ukyo was since he started working for Treasure around the time of Asuka's release. Anyway, because these were no-name indie fighters from a no-name developer on Japanese home computers, they built the game to be playable on a keyboard or a standard 2-button gamepad. So inputs are simple down-forward and down-down motions, and the game uses only 2 buttons. Despite this fact, it pioneered many modern complexities of the anime fighter genre, and the result is a game which hits a phenomenal balance of easy to play, yet quite complex. I'd even go as far as to call it the perfect middle ground, at least for me it is. Why haven't you heard of this supposedly fantastic and pivotal series? Easy. Japan only, console only, and from a small developer that went bankrupt before the series was even done. Asuka 120% Final was actually made by a completely different team, which is why it's a bit of a mess. This is also why this announcement isn't making waves yet. This is still pretty much an indie game. So with that out of the way, let's loop back around SEGA Genesis. What the crap are they doing making a new fighter on Genesis? Well, Asuka 120% started out on the Sharp X68000, the computer most frequently used to program SEGA Genesis games, and just last year, Masatoshi Imaizumi ported the mecha brawler Mad Stalker to Genesis. Asuka 120% is running on the Mad Stalker engine, so why not? That said, it is not just a port. The game will be updated with new systems and mechanics, as well as characters from the later games in the series, and of course, that girl from Wrathgrave. The Switch port will come later, and is tentatively titled Asuka 120% Reborn EE, and will feature an added story mode. Just a guess, but I bet EE stands for Extra Excellent. And the story mode may be adventure game-like, as that's what both of the Asuka 120% Excellent games do. The last game, O-Nyu, is set to come out on PC and all modern consoles and use 3D models, and we're hesitant. Like I said, this is a very small, low-budget production, so I'm not convinced the models will look good. Very high chance they're just gonna screen cap some cel-shaded models, and based on how those look in Phantom Breaker Extra, yeah. I like Asuka 120% though, so I'm still in. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, is this a sequel or a reboot? Well, funny thing, every Asuka 120% is a remake of the same game. The plot has not changed at all, and they even have the same lines in both excellent games. Same win quotes in every game too. So the plot isn't going anywhere, and never has gone anywhere. So in the unique case of Asuka 120%, the terms reboot, sequel, and remake all mean the same thing. I just hate people who abuse the term reboot with reckless abandon to the point where I consider it a racial slur. Somehow, don't ask questions. Just fuck anyone that uses the term reboot to describe every damn game that comes out these days. But this does bring up something else interesting. Phantom Breaker Omnia is coming soon to Steam, Switch, PS4, and Xbone. See, after the collapse of Fill-In Cafe, Masatoshi Imaizumi and Masaki Ukyo of Guardian Heroes fame got back together to form Run Release Universal Network, and they made Phantom Breaker on 360 back in 2011. The game was, in a way, a spiritual successor to Asuka 120% with the same nutty clash mechanics and a new focus specifically on simplified gameplay, which was new back in 2011. The game was set to get a US release courtesy of 760, only for Microsoft to completely fuck it over, and I'm pretty sure they drove the publisher out of business with their shenanigans. The sequel on PS3 never got a US release at all, but the side-scrolling beat-em-up spin-off did, and it's awesome. Recently, someone from Rocket Panda Games got to talking with the producer of Phantom Breaker series about maybe doing a Steam port of Extra, and instead they decided to make a new version called Omnia. Omnia serves two purposes: to finally bring Phantom Breaker to America and fix the issues people had with the sequel. The game contains both story modes, some gameplay tweaks, a new third groovism, and even a couple new characters. US release is confirmed for this year, dub voices are already cast, and things are proceeding smoothly thus far. I'm gonna be honest, I enjoyed Phantom Breaker, didn't like Phantom Breaker Extra, and don't like either of them as much as Asuka 120% myself. But I look forward to playing them again. Sadly, no rollback netcode on Phantom Breaker Omnia, but I remember Extra's netcode being pretty good, so fingers crossed, but yeah, they might want to patch that in later. Back to Asuka, though. If you're curious about the games and want to try them through various means, you'll probably notice there are a ton of games. The Japanese tournament standard is Asuka 120% special, but specifically version 2, denoted by a little dot in the corner of the case. Yeah. In-game, you can tell which version it is by setting the timer to infinite. In version 1, it just stays at 99, while in version 2, it actually displays an infinity sign on the timer in the match. The version on Japanese PSN on PS3, PSP, and Vita is version 2. Sadly, this is also probably the worst looking game in the series. If you want one that both looks and plays good, look for Limit Over with an English patch on Saturn. Limit Over is a balance patch for Limited released after the company went out of business. As Japan wants to use official releases and real hardware, they're wary about playing Limit Over. I assume this is why they play Special 2 instead, but the Western community tends to lean towards Limit Over. Fair warning though, as this was not an official release, it has no fluff. No title screen, no win quotes, no graphics on the menus. Everything has been cut back to speed up load times and get players in and out of matches as fast as possible. If you want the fluff, just play the totally legit copy of Limited you absolutely have in order to make your copy of Limit Over, right? Either way, poke around on a certain wiki for anime fighters and you'll find what you need. I've got a retrospective on the Asuka 120% series, scripted and in rough draft form though, so look forward to that, and I might make a few other videos on the subject because, well, I really like Asuka 120%. Until then though, this is Gel, and you've been Game Babbled. See ya.